Your honored guests and viewers, good morning. This is Tiffany Beltran of the PIO. Before we begin, allow me to give a few instructions on how to go about during this Zoom event, what to do while the chief is delivering his message, how to go about with the Q&A, and I will also give an overview of the program flow. Our admin is composed of a team from the PIO. Attorney Brian and I are the hosts or the floor directors for the program. All of us are on board to troubleshoot and to address glitches. We have control over the technical side of the platform. With us is also a representative from the MISO to address our internet connection. We will be doing a simultaneous live stream of this event on our official YouTube page, which link will also be uploaded to our official Twitter and Facebook pages for public consumption. The hosts will mute all of the participants once the program starts. We will start with ecumenical prayer, national anthem, and the Supreme Court hymn. After these, Attorney Brian will introduce the Chief Justice and he will deliver his message. We will then proceed with the Q&A. Everyone will still be on mute at this point. The only time the hosts will unmute a participant is when he or she is recognized to ask a question. We will only entertain questions from members of the Justice Beat. Should you wish to ask a question, kindly send a message to the chat box of this Zoom meeting. The admin will call on you in the order as posted on the chat. Please wait to be recognized before you ask your question. You will be unmuted when it's your turn to ask and will be put back on mute after. This is in order to avoid unnecessary noise and to properly hear each other. After the Q&A, Attorney Brian will close the program and all the participants may then press the leave button. Thank you very much, and let's now begin the program.
Almighty God, we stand in your holy presence as our supreme judge. We humbly beseech you to bless and inspire us so that what we think, say, and do will be in accordance with your will. Enlighten our minds, strengthen our spirit, and fill our hearts with fraternal love, wisdom, and understanding, so that we can be effective channels of truth, justice, and peace. In our proceedings today, guide us in the path of righteousness for the fulfillment of your greater glory. Amen.
Welcome to CJ Meets the Press, SC Rising Above the Pandemic. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Court Administrator Jose Midas P. Marquez and Bank Clerk of Court Attorney Edgar Ericheta. I will now call on Attorney Brian Hosaka, Chief of the Public Information Office, to introduce the Chief Justice.
Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta. Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta, Court Administrator Jose Midas Marquez, Supreme Court and Bank Clerk of Court Attorney Edgar Aricheta, mga pinuno at kawani ng Korte Suprema, mga kaibigan naming mga writers at reporters ng Justice Beat, mga nanonood po ngayong umaga sa kanilang mga computers, laptops, and smartphones. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Attorney Brian Hosaka, Chief of the Public Information Office and spokesperson of the Supreme Court. Kasama ko po si Chief Atendido Beltran, ang inyong magiging host sa ating programa. Eksaktong isang taon na po ang nakalilipas nang maihirang ang ika-26 na Chief Justice ng Pilipinas noong October 23, 2019. Matapos po siyang ma-appoint as Chief Justice, hindi na po siya nag-aksaya ng panahon para mag-implement ng kanyang mga programa at reforma para sa hudikatura. Hindi po naging madali ang kanyang trabaho, lalo na po't dumating ang pandemya na dulot ng coronavirus. Maswerte po tayo ngayong umaga na makakasama natin para magsalita at magpaliwanag ng kanyang mga programang nagawa at mga reforma pang gagawin para sa ikabubuti ng hudikatura ating bayan. Ang ika-26 na Chief Justice ng Pilipinas, wala pong iba kundi si Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta.
Salamat, Attorney Osaka. Court Administrator Jose Midas Marquez, Assistant Court Administrator and PIO Chief Attorney Brian Osaka, and Bank Clerk of Court Attorney Edgar Aricheta, members of the Justice and Court Reporters Association or JUCRA, members of the Justice Reporters Organization or Juror, ladies and gentlemen, magandang umaga. I would have preferred to meet you in person today, but since Metro Manila still remains on general community quarantine, we have to observe proper physical distancing and strictly adhere to other protocols for everyone's health and safety. It is fortunate that we can utilize available technologies, hence we are meeting online for a second time this year. Incidentally, today marks my first year as the 26th Chief Justice. As you are all aware of, I immediately laid down my 10-point program for the judiciary, which focuses on 4 core areas: efficiency, integrity, service, and security. Shortly after my appointment as Chief Justice last year, I launched the Judiciary Public Assistance Section, or JPAS, also known as the Judiciary Help Desk. The JPAS, which is under the direct control and supervision of my office, provides an official line of communication between the judiciary, the stakeholders, and the general public. It addresses the needs of the general public as it gives attention to requests for assistance and information, queries, and concerns from the public. I had gone through the task of laying the groundworks for other judicial reforms based on my 10-point program when unexpectedly a curveball was thrown at us. This happened in mid-March of 2020, and this was the COVID-19 global pandemic. Not only the country, but the entire world was not prepared for the coronavirus, which is slowed down almost every business and government operation. But not even COVID-19 will prevent or stop the judiciary from performing its mandate. I personally monitor the courts from the Supreme Court down to the first level courts daily. I did not allow this virulent virus to prevent the Supreme Court from making sure that the wheels of justice will continue moving unhampered and without sacrificing the health and welfare of the court employees and the public. I made sure that the concerns of the judges and court personnel were being addressed. Release of their salaries and allowances. I was constantly in touch with the other members of the court and key officials in the Supreme Court as I deliberated with them on some policy changes through available technology, email, text messages, and online meetings. In fact, the court and bank had its first online deliberations last April 17. At the height of the lockdown, I was in constant communication with Court Administrator Marquez several times a day to discuss with him matters to make sure that all concerns of the lower courts were being attended to. These discussions would at times reach late at night just so that the court can issue promptly these administrative circulars. Incidentally, these circulars can be accessed at the SC website as they had been timely uploaded by the court's Public Information Office. Nonetheless, I am pleased to say that despite the pandemic, most of the items in my 10-point program have already come to fruition. I am most especially proud that only a year under my watch, the court has approved several rules and guidelines to address head-on the problem of court decongestion. Last month, we had authorized all first-level and second-level courts to conduct video conferencing hearings. I have always said that the elimination of backlog in the Supreme Court and all the other courts will be among my top priorities. Likewise, we have reinvigorated the Judicial Integrity Board and the Corruption Prevention and Investigation Office, or CPIO, to further strengthen integrity and prevent corruption in the judiciary. And the members of the board have already assumed their duties, and they are now in the process of drafting their own internal rules. The board is composed of retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Romy J. Calejo Sr., retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Angelina Sandoval Gutierrez as Vice Chairperson, and the following as members: retired Court of Appeals Associate Justice Cecinando Villon, retired Sandigan Bayan Associate Justice Rodolfo Ponferrada, and Court of Tax Appeals Preside Associate Justice Chelito Mindaro Grolia. I have said it before, and I will say it again. I want the Peralta Court to be remembered for four things. First, the declogging of court dockets. Second, judicial reform, specifically the amendments of the rules of court towards the early disposition of cases. Third, improving the welfare of court personnel and affording them security of tenure. And fourth, better access to efficient, effective, and responsive justice. I have also vowed to be relentless, in going after the court's errant members. With your indulgence, allow me to go into further details on the accomplishments of the Supreme Court under my stewardship. Proceed. Okay. Now, these are the highlights, of the presentation: the administrative circulars and issuance during community quarantine, video conferencing hearings, the statistics on COVID-19 infections, the Supreme Court performance, and the 10-point program. Next, please. Next. Okay. On March 13, 2020, when pandemic was declared, we issued administrative numbers 28, 2020, and 29, 2020, suspending the personal follow-ups. And all matters shall be coursed through the JPAS, that means that's the Judiciary Public Assistance System. Several days after the national government declared an enhanced community quarantine and suspended some of government offices, operation of some government offices, the Supreme Court issued the circular 31/2020, dated March 16, 2020, suspending the hearings nationwide and suspending also prescriptive periods. We gave them extension of 1 month. Those falling, those prescriptive periods falling during this period, they were given an extension of 1 month. Several days after, on March 20, 2020, the Supreme Court issued circular number 32/2020, physically closing all courts, but establishing court hotlines in order that concerns from court users can be addressed through these hotlines. On March 31, 2020, the Supreme Court issued circular number 33/2020, where we now allow criminal complaints, informations, and bare requirements that may be filed through email, or those that may be filed emails. And approval of bail and release orders shall be electronically transmitted within the same day to the proper law enforcement authority or detention facility to enable the release of the accused. This was issued because we wanted that courts shall continue to function, and therefore those arrested without a warrant and complaints should be filed within the periods required under the rules. They should be immediately attended to. And also those who would like to apply for bail on the same day that they apply for bail, the release or the orders releasing the accused should be immediately acted upon through electronic transmission. Thereafter, on April 27, 2020, because there were cases that should be attended to and cannot be attended to through electronic transmissions, we allowed the pilot testing of video conferencing. I told you last time in June that we were fortunate that early as June 2019, there was already a video conferencing that we pilot tested in Davao City. And I told you also that because of that, the video conferencing pilot testing in Davao, para madali yung pag-implement ng video conferencing in other courts, in-expand namin. We expanded the coverage of the video conferencing and allowed all courts in the National Capital Region and select courts in every region. So doon ho nag-umpisa yung video conferencing noong April 27, 2020. And then we also allowed video conferencing in all stages of trial. That means that it's not only on arraignment, but also during the trial. And pilot courts were provided with judiciary 365 accounts with email and video conferencing applications. On April 30, 2020, Administrative Circular number 38/2020 was issued. Ito po ay initiative ng Supreme Court at hindi po nanggaling sa petition or request ng any other party, because at that time we felt na yung COVID-19 ay nag-i-spread na sa mga jails, not only in BJMP jails but also in provincial jails, municipal jails, and detention centers ng ating mga pulis. At kinakailangan na i-decongest ang mga jails at mga PJMP at saka detention cells ng mga pulis. At napag-aralan namin na kakaunti lang makapag-apply ng bail dahil ito karamihan dito ay mga indigent, kasi hindi na sila persons deprived of liberty kung kaya nilang magbayad ng bail. So ito po ginawa namin dahil itong mga preso nito, sa tingin namin ay based on the existing rule, hindi sila makapag-bail po, no? Gawin natin yung example yung attempted homicide. Yung attempted homicide po ay ang penalty yan ay prisyon koreksyonal o 6 months and 1 day, so 6 years. Yung existing rule before this administrative order Ang bail po for every year of imprisonment, 10,000 po yan. To be taken from the medium penalty. Kaya kung 1 day and 6 years yan, ang maging medium ng penalty yan ay 4 years. So attempted homicide lang, i-multiply mo yung 4 years times 10,000, ang piyansa ay 40,000. Ngayon, kung magbabayad ka ng property bond, bail bond, kinukuha nila mga 20% ang premium yan. So you multiply 20% by 4,000, 8,000 po yan. Medyo mabigat yan. Not only that, he or she will spend additional 10% for incidental expenses. So all in all, maghahanda ng preso ng 30% o 40,000, dapat nakahanda siya ng 12,000 para sa bail bond niya. So ang ginawa ng husgado? Ang ginawa po ng husgado po pag ang penalty ay 6 months and 1 day to 6 years, ginawa na lang namin 1,000 for every year of imprisonment. Kaya kung kung ang attempted homicide 6 months and 1 day to 6 years, yung 4 years yan ang medium penalty niya, i-multiply mo ng 1,000, 4,000 na lang yung niya, yung bail bond niya. Magbabayad niya ng 20%, hindi naabot ng 1,000 yung ihahanda niya para makawala. Ganon din sa reclusion temporal. Ang penalty niyan 12 years and 1 day to 20 years, no? Ito yung example yan ng homicide, yung pumatay. Under the existing rule, ang bail bond yan 10,000 times the medium penalty. Usually ang medium penalty niyan 15 years So i-multiply mo yun, 10,000 times 15 years, magkano yun? 150,000 yan. Maghahanda siya ngayon ng 30% of 150,000, 45,000 yan. Yung poor na tao, hindi niya kaya marahil magbayad ng ganong kalaking bail bond. At saka premium lang yan. Every year yan, i-renew niya, magbabayad ulit ng 45,000. So anong ginawa po ng husgado? Instead of 10,000, ginawa ng husgado ng 3,000 for every year. Ganon din yung mga crimes na 6 years and 1 day to 12 years, dahil ang medium penalty niyan usually is 9 years, instead of 90,000, magbabayad na 18,000 na lang, magbabayad ng premium ng 30%, kakaunti na lang ho yung babayaran niya. Kaya maraming lumabas dyan. Ngayon, kung ang penalty naman 1 day to 6 months, yung arresto mayor, hindi na kinakailan magpiyansa yan. Recognizance na lang. Anyway, mayroon naman sa batas, at sinasabi sa batas, yung bagong batas na RA 911362 kung nakonvict ka nga ng arresto minor at saka arresto mayor, convicted na yan, pwede ka nang mag-community service ka. Ito, hindi ka pa guilty, wala pa naman sinasabing may kasalanan, bakit hindi pwedeng lumabas yan on recognizance? Po ang initiative po yan. Kaya marami nagtatanong, bakit walang reclusion perpetua yan? Bakit walang life imprisonment or reclusion perpetua to death? Hindi ho namin magawa yan dahil mayroon constitutional limitation, sabi ko. Ang sabi ng Constitution, you apply for bail and then let the prosecution establish proof that the evidence of guilt is strong. If it is the evidence of guilt is weak, then he will be entitled to bail. Kaya hindi po ho namin magawa yun hanggang 20 years lang yan kasi bail is a matter of right po yan. Yun po at makikita niyo mamaya kung ilan ang nakinabang sa itong circular ng ating Supreme Court. Pagdating po ng May 14, 2020, nagkaroon ng modified enhanced community quarantine. Natapos na yung ECQ, so revise din naman namin yung circular namin at ito na ngayon ang ginawa namin. Physical closure of courts. Okay. Tapos matters courts through email and hotline and JPAS. JPAS pa rin. Kaya lang, yung filing of pleadings for criminal and civil cases na-include na yung civil cases through email. Tapos, we now also allow video conferencing, raffle of cases at saka hearings on both criminal and civil cases. Kasi yung video conference lang namin nun sa criminal cases lang, bail and so on. But because of the modified, enhanced community quarantine, kailangan din namin mag-adjust. So ito ho ang pag-adjust namin, physical closure pa rin, but matters can be posted to email hotline and JPAS. Kaya nagkaroon kami ng modification. The next day, May 15, 2020, because when the President declared yung modified enhanced community quarantine ng May 14, several areas lang yan eh. Hindi naman lahat sa Pilipinas yan. NCJR, I think National Capital Region, Region 3, Region 4, and cities of Cebu ata. Yun. Kaya yung circular namin ng May 14 applies only to those places. But what about those places na under general community quarantine? So gumawa rin kami ng panibago circular the following day, May 15, 2020, ayun, binuksan na namin ng husgado. At inalaw na namin ang mga empleyado namin ng skeleton staff para naman hindi magkahawa-hawa kung magkakaroon ng COVID ng isa. So linimit yung ano. Tapos inalaw na namin ng in-court hearings. In other words, yung judge na ngayon pupunta na sa husgado kasi general community quarantine na eh. Okay. But we still allow filing of pleadings electronically. So pwede ka na mag-file ng physically at saka pwede ka mag-file electronically. And then in video conferencing hearing, still allowed. Siyempre, sabi nila maganda daw yung video conferencing. Sabi ko kay Court Admiral, tuloy. Kung that will help the parties, no? Tuloy natin yan. And that's also good for the judges. Kasi pag video conferencing, yung mga parties wala na sila sa husgado. They will be in their respective places. So, sige, tuloy natin yan. However, sabi namin, yung judge should be in court. Ngunit meron naman exception. Kung sakali yung judge ay vulnerable sa sakit ng COVID, no? Inaalaw namin din yung judge to conduct the video conferencing hearing in a place other than the court or from home. Pwede siya sa bahay. Kaya hindi naman, we have also to protect the judges who are vulnerable. And then, on May 18, nag-issue ng circular ng court administrator informing them of the administrative circular previously issued. And then on August 14, inalaw na namin na mag-conduct ng video conferencing ang single sala courts. Ang ibig sabihin ko kasi ng yung unang circular ho namin kasi, yung video conferencing namin covered only NCJR and other places, hindi kasama yung single sala court. Ito yung single sala court, malayo po sa malayo po sa syudad, nag-isa lang husgado yan. So, kung nandoon ka sa province ko ng Ilocos Norte, mayroong single sala sa Bangge, Ilocos Norte, yun single sala yun, walang kasamang husgado. So by the issuance of this circular, so August 14, 2020, because of the benefits, the good benefits of a video conferencing hearing, inalaw na namin ang single sala courts to conduct video conferencing hearings. And then on September 24, 2020, inauthorize na namin lahat ng husgado mag-conduct ng video conferencing hearing. So, right now, lahat ng husgado sa Pilipinas, pwede na nilang gamitin ng video conferencing. Kaya ipapakita ko ho mamaya yung data, yung effectiveness po ng video conferencing. And then on July 21, 2020, we received some requests from the BJMP and also from the Bucor. Kasi ang sitwasyon kasi sa husgado po, ganito yun eh. Pag na-file ang case sa husgado, person arrested without a warrant, ang procedure po yun, yung judge, i-determine niya kung meron probable cause. Pag may probable cause yan, hindi na ako mag-i-issue ng warrant of arrest kasi arestado na yon. Ang i-issue na ngayon, yung commitment order. Ang purpose ng commitment order, to satisfy yung requirement that within the period, the person was turned over to the court. under the jurisdiction of the court. So, pag na-receive ng husgado, ng commitment order, ang gagawin po ng husgado agad yan, will direct the policeman to transport the prisoner to the BGMP. So from there on, yung arrested person doon sa BGMP, nagkakaroon ng maraming preso. Doon, nagkakaroon ng mga contamination ng COVID. So sabi sa akin ni Court Admidas, pwede ba, Chief, kung pwede natin muna na wag muna mag-issue ng commitment order at ilagay natin muna sa detention cell ng mga police. Anyway, mas maluwag doon. Kaya ito ang circular July 21, 2020. Days after, ito naman Bucor, no? Dito sa Muntinlupa, nabalitaan nyo, ang daming na-COVID doon. May mga namatay doon eh. Pag ang akusado, nasentensyahan, ano po? Although, kahit na nasentensyahan ka na sa lower court, pwede ka naman magpiensa, but there are instances na kung nasentensyahan ka, hindi ka pwedeng magpiensa, mag-i-issue rin ng order ng husgado na itra-transport agad sa Bucor yung akusado. Sabi ni Court Admidas, Chief, maraming ano doon maraming may sakit doon. So, what shall we do? O di, ganito na lang muna ang gawin natin. Huwag kayo muna mag-issue ng commitment order para dalhin sa Bucor. Let the Bucor solve the problem of COVID there, then afterwards, we will commit this accused to the Bucor. Yun po yung circular namin ng OCA Circular 125 at saka 120. Okay, ito na po ipapakita namin yung data ng video conferencing. Accurate po ito. Yung statistics ng PDLs next. From March 2020 to October 2020. Okay. Yung PDLs, yung person deprived of liberty, from March 17, 2020, ang total po yan na na-release 81,888. Yung na-release po yan through video conference, yung 46,032 PDLs na-release po sa video conference. Anong stage ng proceedings yan? Ipapakita ho namin yan kung anong stage of the proceedings sila ay na-release. Ito naman si ICL, ito yung conflict, children in conflict with the law under RA 9346. Alam mo yung CICL, yung mga meron silang sariling there is a different law applicable to them kasi children in conflict, yung mga minors. So ito rin ang na-release 880 through video conference. Ito po ang mga data. Okay. Yung 19,173 under Circular 38-2020, naalala niyo yung sinabi kong circular kanina, re-reduce namin yung bail at saka ginalaw namin ng recognizance, iyan po ang nag-benefit sa video conferencing. 19,173. Yung 2,980, natakpan yung number, that should be 2,980 prisoners, PDLs, nag-serve ng minimum penalty. Pinalabas na namin yan because there is an existing circular that if the prisoner has to serve the minimum penalty, he can only be released on recognizance kahit hindi pa tapos yung kaso. Tapos meron din yung 8,669. Ito po yung nag-apply ng probation. Nakulong ito, binidyo conference yan, nag-apply ng probation, so video conferencing, release, and then they are now undergoing probation. Ito naman video conferencing ng fine, ito po yung napepinaan ng fine na walang imprisonment. So nag-promulgate yan or nag-plead guilty yan, impose ang fine, release agad. But this was done through video conferencing. Kung walang video conferencing yan at pumunta sa regular courts, ay hindi ko alam kung meron tayong nirelease ng ganyan karami. Next please. Ito, yung causes for release, Yung 4,575 na release, dismissal po yan. In other words, ito yung mga nag-hearing yan, hindi dumating ang mga witnesses, so usually, procedural dismissal yan. Tapos yung 1,556, ito yung nagpo-promulgate through video conferencing, ina-acquit yan. Tapos yung nag-serve ng minimum penalty, through video conferencing din yan, 3,904 ang nag-benefit. Tapos yung 5,175, ito na yung nag-serve ng maximum penalty through video conferencing, na-release na rin yan. Okay. Doon naman sa CICL, ito yung children in conflict with the law, suspended sentence. Kasi ang minor kasi, pag na-convict ang minor, dapat isuspend mo yung sentence eh. He will still be given the chance to reform himself eh. Kaya kahit na-convict na yung minor, meron kaming decision dyan, kahit na age of majority na, when the crime was committed, when he was still a minor, he will be still entitled to this eh. So suspended ang sentence yan, and then if he will serve the sentence, hindi ikukulong sa Bucor yan. Ikukulong doon sa kulungan ng DSWD. Tapos yung 319, so video conferencing din, dismissal at saka acquittal. Kung hindi naman, nag-apply ng bail. Ang tanong nila kasi, bakit ba kasi pinapailan ng, anyway, I will explain to you later on. Tapos ito, 212, yung termination at saka closure of diversion. Okay? I-explain ko lang itong diversion nito. Kasi if the offender is less than 18 at nag-commit ng crime yan, pag ang penalty niyan ay less than 6 years, hindi ho pinapailan ng kaso yan. They will go to a rehabilitation center administered by DSWD, pati barangay, meron sila dyan role dyan So, walang pakialam ng court yan. Itong termination and closure of diversion, ito po yung minors na nag-commit ng crime ng more than 6 years ang penalty, but not exceeding 12 years. So, mayayari dyan, pag yung minor, pinalan mo ng kaso, at penalty is 6 years to 12 years yan, pinagbibigyan pa rin ng batas na magbago siya. Kaya yung magagawa ngayon ng husgado, what we call a court-managed diversion program. During this diversion program, itong minor ito, pinakita niya, nag-reform siya, lahat-lahat, kasi pero mag-i-study sa kanya during the diversion program, mag-monitor sa kanya, ite-terminate mo na at i-close mo ng diversion, then dismiss the case. Ito po yon yung 212. Kaya magandang batas yan. Ang problema tayo, hindi na tayo pwede dito, Mang Ray. Para sa minor lang ito, senior na tayo masyado Itong 138, ito yung probation, no? Kasi yung meron din kasing situation, less than 6 years, dapat hindi mo napapailan ng kaso. Kaya lang, hindi kasi na magpapail ng kaso kasi meron provisions doon na if they cannot be reformed during that period or abandoned by their children, or there is no other person who will take custody during the out-of-court program, papailan din ng kaso yan. But because the penalty is less than 6 years, pwede pa rin mag-apply ng probation yan. Tapos fine, tapos mayroon din ng habeas corpus yan na ni-release, probably kinulong na wala naman base. So yun po ang na-release to video conferencing sa mga children in conflict with the law. Let's go to video conferencing hearings. From May 4 to October 16, 2020, ang total hearings ng video conferencing po ay 110,369 total hearings po yan. Sa criminal cases, yan po ang pinakamarami kasi to tell you frankly, ang docket ng first level at saka second level court sa tingin ko mga 70%, more than 70% criminal cases yan. Especially in the second level courts because there are just too many drug cases. Yun, ang video conferencing nila ay 103,227. Sa civil cases, ang na-record lang namin na video conferencing 5,326 civil cases. Tanong, successful ba yung video conferencing nyo? Sa monitoring system po namin, ang lumalabas, ang success rate po ay 88%. Ngunit yung 22% na hindi successful, Walang may kasalanan yan. Sometimes, we cannot blame anybody. Minsan, may defects sa wifi, mga power places, hindi masyadong, yung transmission, medyo magulo, and so on. Yun po ang cause or causes. Hindi po cause ng husgado yan, hindi rin dahilan sa lawyers land o dahilan sa parties because of technology. Okay. Nung number of hearings per stage, para maliwanagan ng mga nanonood para mas bagang pakinggan at madaling explain. Yung 43,254, ito na video conference arrangement and pre-trial. Okay, ito ho yung distribution ng video conferencing. Yung trial proper, ang kinover ng video conferencing is 40,734. Yung promulgation, pati promulgation, inalaw namin ng ang video conferencing Kaya lang, ang problema lang minsan dyan, pag conviction, i-cancel mo ng bail ban yan, so nagkakaroon lang ng konting problema dyan. Kasi paano may video conferencing yan i-cancel mo yung bail ban, dapat i-commit mo agad sa Bucor yan, But we were still able to come up with 6,812 video conferencing on promulgation. Tapos po yung post-judgment, ito yung mga motion for execution, motion for reconsideration, motion to post-bail. Mga yan, yung post-judgment na sinasabi, mga 3,800, marami rin to. Tapos yung bail hearings, ito yung sinasabi namin na when bail is not a matter of right, magpapile ka ng petition because ang judges po ngayon they have to terminate petition for bail, including resolution within 30 days lang. Dapat tatapusin nila. So they have to resort to video conferencing to comply with the timeline. Ito naman pre-arraignment, yung 821, ito yung mga hindi mo na ma-arraign, nagpapile sila ng motion to cause, kung ano mga pinapile nila dyan, motion for preliminary investigation and so on. So ito yung kinover ng 821. Okay? So if you look at the percentage, meron pa kami percentage, pinakamarami yung trial proper at saka yung arraignment and pre-trial. Alam mo kasi sa arraignment and pre-trial po, to tell you frankly, to the credit of our judges, yung sa arraignment kasi, there are four things that happen in arraignment. Yung mag-plead guilty, isa yan, except sa capital offense, at saka yung plea of guilty to a lesser offense, at saka yung plea of not guilty, So, tatlo. Ngayon, pag nag-plea, itong arraignment and pre-trial, kaya 44.8, marami itong nadidismiss din o natatapos sa arraignment. Kasi po, to the credit of mga judges natin, pag isang preso ay nag-plead guilty as charged, huwag lang capital offense yan because you cannot render a decision. Immediately, you have to go to a hearing pag mag-plead guilty sa capital offense. If nag-plead guilty yan as charged yan, judges have already developed the skill of rendering oral sentencing po. Hindi na nila ini-schedule for some other day, for some other date, to some other date, for the promulgation of judgment. Ganon din sa plea of guilty to a lesser offense. Pag nag-plead guilty ng lesser offense yan, to their credit, ang mga judges yan, magagaling ng mag-oral sentencing yan. Hindi na nila agad, hindi na nila in-schedule for some 1 month or 2 months for the promulgation. Right there and then, nag-oral sentencing na po sila. Okay. Now let's go to what we did in the judiciary within the COVID-19. I will give you the data, and then I will explain to you why we were able to manage the COVID-19 within our organization. Okay, please. Next, okay. Of the 28,954 employees po ng Supreme Court, that will include the first level courts, second level courts, appellate courts, Philippine Judicial Academy, Judicial Bar Council, all under the Supreme Court. Out of 28,954, 252 cases lang po or 0.87% ang infected ng COVID. And I will take this this opportunity to thank our friends from the LGOs. Ano po? Kasi if you look at the data sa mga lower first level and second level courts, sila po ang pinakababang percentage and we attribute to many factors, but one of the factors is yung mga LGOs natin tinulungan nila ang mga judges natin. Maraming tulong po ng LGOs yan. Hindi lang po sa testing, kundi pag-disinfect, preventing people from entering the course and so on. Marami hong itulong yan. Okay. Pag distribute namin yung 255, yung Supreme Court nagkaroon ng 55 out of 2,705 employees na infected ng COVID. That is only 2%. So pag sinabi nyo, bakit marami Supreme Court? Hindi naman marami yan kasi 2,705 namin at saka dito po sa Supreme Court, although may skeleton force, marami pong pumapasok because kinakailangan because of the services that they do, they perform during this pandemic. Marami pong pumapasok yan. Nagbo-volunteer po yung mga ibang employees namin na kung pwede pumasok sila para hindi madali ang sweldo, hindi madali ang payroll and so on. Dito naman sa Court of Appeals, 48 out of 1,437 or 3.3%. Dito sa Sandigan Bayan, 14 out of 439. Ang infected po 3.1%. Sa CTA, kasi mas kaunti lang sila doon, 273 lang sila doon, so easier to manage. 8 lang po ang infected or 2.9%. But if you look at the bulk of the employees in the Supreme Court, sa first level at saka 7 level courts, 24,100 employees yan, but only 127 reported to have been infected with COVID, or a small portion of 0.5%. That's why I said I have to thank the LGOs because they took care of our employees, our judges, very well. So bakit konti lang ang na COVID? In the Supreme Court kasi, meron pa kaming disinfection tent. We gave vitamin C. We gave them face shields free. We gave them face masks. We allowed them to go on quarantine. Pag meron symptomatic yan, sabi namin, buti pa magpagaling ka muna. At they follow the orders po So lahat po yan ginawa namin para hindi ma-infect yung mga employees natin. That's why we have only 0.87%. Okay. Napunta na tayo sa case statistics po ng Supreme Court. Okay. Sa judicial cases, tingnan na lang natin yung clearance rate para ma-explain ko po Yung ibang figures lang yan ito yung mga data pending and so on. Ang ibig kong sabihin ng clearance rate, just to give an example, pag pumasok ang case during that period, 100 po, kung 100 din ang na-decide mo, 100% yung clearance rate mo. In other words, the clearance rate is based on your performance on the cases that were filed during that period. Sabi nila, bakit sa NBank mabagal ata kayo Kasi bakit 76% lang? Kasi pumasok po yung anti-terror petitions yan mga ilan yun? 37. 37 anti-terror petitions po yan. Hindi naman agad-agad ma-resolve yan Kaya yan, bumaba ng 76% kasi marami hong naipile na anti-terror. But if the anti-terror petitions will be resolved, tataas yan. Ang performance yan. Yung first division is 96%. Ito, judicial po ito That means yung judicial cases, ito yung mga petitions and so on. Filed by private parties or government agencies and so on, government officials. Ito po yung judicial. Yung second division, 101%. That means that they perform above 100%. That means that they were able to resolve not only those cases that were filed, but those cases that were not resolved the previous period. Nabawasan niya yung backlog, in other words. Yung third division, 98%. Yun po ang performance po ng Supreme Court sa judicial. meron din kaming tinatawag na administrative cases at saka bar matters. Yung administrative cases, ito po yung performance ng Supreme Court sa mga complaints against personnel, judges, and so on, against lawyers, and other administrative matters. Like, marami po yung other administrative matters, mga retirement, application for retirement, optional retirement, meron yung mga approval for expenditures, and so on. Marami po yan. Ayan po, yung NBank po, 149% yung clearance rate. So in other words, the NBank was performing more than 100%. Therefore, those cases that were filed before this period, na-resolve. Ibig sabihin, nabawasan yung backlog. Kanon din ang first division, 129%. Second division, 122%. Third division, 105%. I'll now go to my 10-point program. Okay? The elimination of backlog, that's my first one. Okay. We tried our best to eliminate the backlog in the Supreme Court. Meron ho kaming, kasi ang Supreme Court po, pag pinag-usapan po yung judicial, kasi di ba kami masyadong problema sa administrative eh. Sa judicial, there are two classes of petitions. Yung tinatawag namin na original petitions at saka yung hindi original. Yung hindi original, that means that the case originated from the Court of Appeals or from the lower courts. Yung original petitions, these are filed directly with us. Yung pinapile namin directly with us, the original, meron na po kaming decision dun sa MAR how to get rid of these original petitions. At yan po ang ginagawa namin. Kaya minsan, meron mo nagtatanong, bakit ito dinismiss agad? Hindi na lang kami pinag-comment. Yun po yung ginagawa ng Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court feels, na hindi na mabibigyan ng jokers. For example, it should, I'll just give you a very clear example, yung declaratory relief. Ano po? Mag-file ka ng petition ng declaratory relief sa Supreme Court, dinidismiss namin yon kasi wala kaming jurisdiction dan sa RTC yan. So ang ginagawa namin doon, wrong remedy or violation of the hierarchy of courts. Kaya natatapos agad yun. Yung mga iba naman, yung mga certiorari under Rule 65, marami nagpapel ng certiorari, hindi naman, does not comply with the requirements under Rule 65. Dinidismiss namin din yun. Yung mga mandamos, papel siya ng mandamos, ang kino-complain nila, discretionary duty, hindi naman sakop ng mandamos yan, dinidismiss namin yon. At marami kami nadi-dismiss ng ganyan, no? Yung kwan naman, yung nanggagaling sa lower courts, yung dumarating sa Supreme Court, ito yung tinatawag namin na, by the way, yung sa judicial cases, ang karamihan sa akin, in my experience, I've been here for a long time, 30 years na. Ang karamihan na dumatating sa amin sa Supreme Court, yung notice of disallowances. Karamihan na dumatating sa amin na cases sa judicial, yung notice of disallowances, yung dinidisallow ng COA. Because the only court where they could file a petition is before the Supreme Court. Meron na disallow ng 1 million yan sa Supreme Court yan. 2 million yan sa Supreme Court yan. Supreme Court lahat yan because COA is a constitutional body. And the only remedy that may be filed is Rule 64 in relation to 65. Kaya yun po ang marami sa amin. But we are hoping that through the Ponencia of Justice Ben Caguiwa, yung Madera case, meron na kaming ginawang guidelines yan so that we can easily resolve all these notice of disallowances. And that's what's now happening. Since that case was decided by the NBank, yun na po ang nangyayari yan. And there is also a suggestion na kung pwede yung mga COA cases ilagay namin sa Court of Appeals under the principle of intermediate appeal, but that has to be studied very well because there may be some questions, Yun po. Yung cases naman na coming from the Court of Appeals, ina-appeal sa amin, marami nagpa-file sa amin. Ang remedy that they usually file is yung tinatawag namin na Rule 45 po para ho maintindihan ng tao kasi sinasabi rin nila nag-file sila sa Supreme Court, dinismiss naman agad, hindi na pinag-comment, ganun Kasi po yung Rule 45, kung ano lang, just give me with your kind indulgence, ang pwede mo lang i-raise dyan sa Rule 45 ay question of law. Kaya kung nag-file ka ng Rule 45 at mayroong question of facts, at tama naman yung finding of facts ng Court of Appeals, eh dinidismiss na namin yan, hindi namin pinagko-commentnan. Yan po ang ginagawa ngayon ng Supreme Court, kaya kung makita nyo sa performance ngayon ng Supreme Court, eh medyo mabilis na in fight of the pandemic. Ngayon, sa lower courts naman, bakit ano bang ginagawa natin sa lower courts? I will tell you later on the circular basis, I will explain later on. Yung sa lower courts, doon sa Court of Appeals at saka Sandigan Bayan at saka hindi masyadong mataas ang nila, ang dockets nila eh. But still there is a need of improvement, and very soon I will meet the presiding justices of the 3 appellate courts before the end of the year, as I usually do. I meet them on a regular basis, no? And to tackle some problems on the backlog of cases, especially in the Court of Appeals. Number 2, this is the one also my 10-point program, yung rules of court. You look at the next slide. Doon sa rules na ginawa natin, ito po ang ginawa namin during my 1 year, during my 1 year. Teka, yung rule administrative search and inspection under Philippine Competition Act, this was actually launched sometime January of 2020. Ito po yung request po ng those who are engaged in shipping. Bakit daw ang tagal-tagal yung mga cases ng mga sinasabi nila, Dunya Pass, yung mga collision dyan, ang tagal, umabot ng 20 years, 15 years. Bakit in other jurisdictions, mabilis? So, iba pala ito. I'm referring to the rules of procedure for admiralty case. I will go to the search later on. Yung rules of procedure for admiralty cases, ito po yung request ng mga shipping. Those who are engaged in the shipping industry, yung mga shipbuilding, magtagal daw yung kaso. Why is it that in other jurisdictions, ang bilis? So, because of their request, we came out with the rules of procedure for admiralty cases, and we have already addressed all their concerns. And we launched this one last January of this year. No? Yung rule administrative search and inspection under the Philippine Competition Act, we have to come up with the administrative search and inspection because under the law, nakalagay kasi doon that insofar as administrative search and inspection, it should be through a resolution of the Supreme Court, which we have already done. Ito po, mas maganda itong amendments ng rules of civil procedure, tsaka revised rules on evidence. Tayo po ay nanggaling galing tayo sa baba. In other words, from the ranks po tayo. Ko po, dati even when I was already here, ang hirap i-measure ng efficiency ng isang judge kasi itong rule on civil procedure, wala hong timelines to. Walang timelines. Para under the old rule, pag gusto mong i-determine yung efficiency ng isang judge, ang ginagawa lang namin po ilan ba ang natapos niya 1 taon? But ang question doon ilang taon yung kaso sa kanya? So sabi namin, because of our experience in the continuous trial in criminal cases noong 2017 where we started providing timelines for each procedure or for each stage, gawin din natin ng paraan para i-amend natin itong 1997 Rules of Civil Procedure, lagyan natin ng timelines at may timelines na yan. Isa pa, we address the problems of delay. Ang dami kasing motions na pinapile sa civil cases, linimit ho namin na yan. Tapos lahat ng witnesses to testimony on direct examination, kinakailangan na lang affidavit at saka attached to the complaint. Pag sanay po kayo sa mga complaints sa civil cases, ginagawa allegations of ultimate facts constituting a cause of action. So, ang ginagawa lang dati noon, i-allege mo na yung ultimate facts, tapos ito ang cause of action, tama na. Ito ngayon, hindi na po. Pag nag-allege ka ng ultimate facts to establish your cause of action, dapat i-attach mo yung document supporting it. Sa madaling salita po, ang petitions na ang complaints sa civil cases ay kinakailangan na evidentiary in nature. Ang sabi ko dyan, when we deliver lectures and when we were formulating these rules, ang sinasabi ko dyan lay down your cards on the pleadings na. Hindi na yung lay down your cards during trial para wala ng surprise. So lay down your pleadings on the lay down your cards on the pleadings. Ganun na po 'yon. At naging effective 'yan itong May 1. Ito naman rules on evidence, sinimplify namin yung ibang rules, but what is important now in the rule on evidence yung in-apply namin yung all evidence should not be offered orally, testimonial or documentary. At saka importante niyan, we adopted po yung rules on yung Hague Convention sa Service Convention and Apostille Convention. Yung Service Convention po yon, dati kung walang Service Convention, pag yung dependent nasa England, hindi mo maseserban ng summons yun. But this Service Convention, summons may now be served. Extraterritorially, summons and notices through the Service Convention. Ganon din ang contracts, yung Apostille Convention, dati pag magpresenta ka ng document para ma-authenticate yan, punta ka sa embassy, lalagyan ng ribbon ng pula, papadala mo sa husgado. Hindi na ngayon. It will pass through the apostille, then that document will now be a valid document as long as it is properly authenticated during the presentation of that document. Kaya shorten ang proceedings. Marami pa dyan, sandili, abutin tayo ng hapon dyan. So anyway, yung third point program ko, and technology. To make court processes, incorporate technology and hearings. You look at the second, okay. What have we done? Meron na po tayong e-courts at saka e-raffle. Kasi yung mga panahon natin kami ni Manong Ray, Pagilin, ang raffle po noon bingo tambiolo, tapos raffle. Sabi nila maraming milagro. Wala naman akong experience na miraglo during my time. But yun, mga sinasabi, hindi na pwede ho yan. Ang raffle po ng cases, i-raffle na, automatic yan. Pag nag-file ka ng case, pupunta agad sa i-raffle. Yung i-raffle, alam na niya kung saan pupunta yun Siya na nakakalam nun. So immediately after, i-raffle yan, papunta na sa husgado. Wala nang delay. Wala nang suspicion. Wala, hindi na pwede yung siya sabi, linuto yan, hindi na pwede yun. Hindi pwedeng lutuin yung yung computer okay? Now, then we now have e-subpoena. Kasi itong but itong e-subpoena, ito yung subpoena being sent to police officers, mga agents and so on, mga police officers who are supposed to testify in several cases. So, minsan mahirap hanapin yung police So, meron na kaming e-subpoena. Pag nasi-receive ng subpoena ng head ng office doon sa PNP or any police station, then that means that the subpoena already served. Yun po ang ginagawa namin. Yan. Tapos yung e-warrant, we just implemented it last month, yung e-warrant. Kasi ganito ho sa husgado kasi po pag mayroong probable cause at hindi arestado yung tao, mag-i-issue po ng warrant of arrest. Ang nakalagay doon sa within 10 days, determine the existence of probable cause, then issue a warrant of arrest. Ang pag-issue po ng warrant of arrest, ipapadala lang doon sa NBI, sa police, or sino interested party na police, o yung But we do not have anyway, we cannot determine actually, kung ni-serve yung warrant o anong ginawa sa warrant. Although they are supposed to return the warrant and then explain as to what happened to the warrant. Hindi na po pwedeng mangyari dyan. Ang nangyari na ngayon, pag nag-issue ng judge, nakakonect tayo sa PNP, issue ng judge, yung warrant ngayon is transmitted through electronic means. Pupunta doon sa station where the crime was committed at sa station where the accused is residing. Pupunta doon. At the end of the year, fully implemented na ito i-warrant. Kasi ngayon dito pa lang sa NCR but the court ad committed to me, no, that it will be already implemented nationwide. Eh sabi ko sa kanya, bakit lang i-warrant lang sa PNP? Bakit sa NBI? Then lately, the OIC of the NBI visited my office, I think 3 weeks ago, and then we assured him that the NBI will be also included in the e-warrant. So dalawa na mapa-furnishan ng e-warrant, police, and then also NBI. So mas madali nang maresto po yung mga at large. And then itong e-filing, we allowed e-filing. Hindi na kinakailangan physically, magpa-file yan. Pwede na through electronic means, magpa-file. Service of summons under the new rules, yung service of summons, saka notices, pwede na rin. Electronic means. In some instances, pwede na rin yung e-payment, especially in the Supreme Court. We are still developing the guideline in so far is e-payment sa first level at saka second level courts. Kasi po problema namin dyan baka walang land bank is the depository of the government, paano saan siya magbabayad. But in the Supreme Court, we have already a guideline for e-payment in the Supreme Court. Okay, weeding out of misfits from the judiciary. Okay, please, okay. As I said a while ago, we have already organized, no? And that the members of the board of the Judicial Integrity Board have already assumed their duties as members. No, we expect that the investigation of cases involving judges will be much faster because mabagal ang UKA or the Office of the Court Administration. Talaga pong maraming trabaho yan So sa akin lang, if you ask me, yung trabaho marahil ng UKA, mga 40% investigation yan. Maraming trabaho po sa sa investigation. So it's not because there is law, but because talaga marami na silang trabaho so that they can already concentrate on the other tasks of the or their mandate sa OCA. So that's the reason why we created this one. Now, in so far as complaints, I will tell you this. The JPAS has been very effective. Yung Judiciary Public Assistance Office has been very effective in cases or complaints involving judges. Because even if the complaint is not signed, as long as they give us evidence where we can start the investigation, right there and then we start the investigation and then file the necessary complaint if warranted. Kaya yun ang sinasabi ko na even there is no more complaint, we can start already with investigation of cases. And then on February 3 of 2020, I issued the memorandum, yung mandatory observance of proper office attire, para naman magmukhang mga judges sila, which has been the practice, doon na to, bakit minsan hindi nasusunod. So we require them that they should be in a coat and tie, mga judges, or long sleeves barong. O yun, sumusunod na ata lahat sila. Now, in so far as disciplinary actions we undertaken from October 23, 2019 up to September 30, 2020, if we look at the data, we have already dismissed 2 judges and 14 personnel. Benefits forfeited, ito sinasabi ko, even if you have already retired, we can still go after you as long as the acts were committed when you were an incumbent judge, and we can forfeit the benefit. And then, so 1 judge and then 3 personnel na forfeit ang benefit. Yung suspension, meron personnel na 14. Yung na-impose ng fine, merong isang justice ng appellate court, tapos 10 judges ang na-fine and then 12 personnel. Judges reprimanded 4, personnel 28, judges admonished 3, then 1 personnel admonished. Next, please. Now, in so far as disciplining of lawyers is concerned, the data will show us how many have we disciplined. There are around 76,050 current lawyers now, you know. We have disciplined 88. Eight were disbarred. 31 were suspended from practice of law and suspended from practice of law and notarial commission, no. Yung suspension from practice of law and suspension from practice of law and notarial commission, that means that the lawyer, itong suspended from practice of law and notarial commission, that means that the lawyer was suspended because of his violation of his notarial commission. Kaya nakalagay dyan, notarial commission. Yung 31 suspended from practice of law, hindi po ito yung because of violation of the notarial law or the commission. It may be other offenses like misconduct, meron din yung morality, meron yung marami yan. But they were not disbarred. Ito naman disbarred, meron yung gross immorality, meron yung mga gross misconduct, yung tinatakbo yung kwarta, supposed to be used for filing fees or money of the clients and so on. Ito po yung disbarred. Okay, next. Ito, strengthening the OCA and GIB implementation. I just signed an order creating a committee, a committee that will look at the guidelines, or internal rules of the GIB, and some of the members come from the OCA. Kasi ang gagawin nila po is that some of the employees will be transferred to the OCA, those who have been handling investigation, and some of, because of the powers will not be transferred, nandun yon. Hindi naman namin lahat transfer yung power of OCA to discipline. There are also other cases na yung OCA meron pa rin siyang power to investigate. By doing so, maalis yung some of the work of OCA, i-strengthen namin ngayon yung OCA noon sa other areas. Kasi because of technology, marami na silang imo-monitor yan. They will have to do a lot of monitoring. I want that the DCA and the other ACAs to go to visit their judges once in a while, see them how they work, visit them once in a while. Hindi po nila nagagawa yun. So, we strengthen the OCA, and at the same you also give some powers to GIB in order that judges will be, or personnel will be properly disciplined. Okay, improving security. We're still waiting for the law that we suggested to be enacted by Congress. But what I heard is that in the lower house they have already finished third reading. No, it will already be submitted for plenary, and likewise also in the Senate. But because of pandemic, probably they were very much occupied with the budget and also the Bayanihan 1 and the Bayanihan 2 laws. So we are just waiting, but I hope that after the recess, or after they have deliberated on the budget and approved the budget, and they will calendar the Philippine Judiciary Marshal, especially now that another judge was ambushed last week, last Tuesday, and we really need the judiciary marshals, because the Supreme Court cannot give the adequate security. What we can only do is that when one is threatened, then they come to us, then we give our own security for them. But sometimes also the PNP gives security to our judges. But as I said before, what we want is a judiciary marshal, so that he will have the power to investigate and file cases before the courts. So the investigation will be faster, no? Yung meron po yung judge na namatay ata sa Ilocosur, kaya ba yun? Yeah, the judge namatay sa Ilocosur, until now hindi pa na-file ng case. And the family is always following us up. So yun ang importance of the Philippine Judiciary Marshals. Okay. Yung Judiciary Public Assistance Section, okay, we will please go to the next slide. Okay. Since the inception of the JPAS, up to October 15, 2020, we have already received 6,944 inquiries and concerns, And these inquiries and concerns were immediately addressed by the concerned by concerned officials. I have a clear instruction to them that once they receive a request or they want information but which is not confidential, then they should be immediately acted upon, and that the one who is requesting should be informed of what they have done with the request. That's what I will also do with the complaints being received by the Office of the Chief Justice. I immediately refer to the OCA, if a judge, for investigation, and inform likewise the one complaining, sometimes identified, sometimes not identified, but even not identified, we will come. We will come so that we can act. No? So this is the breakdown of the queries and concern. No? For case status, lower courts and Supreme Court, 20.5%. For complaints against judges and employees, 19.8%. For administrative concerns, 22.3%. Others, directory or general, 19.1%. Pag court processes, 18.3%. Filing, tinatanong nila yung filing, calendar, holiday, pati calendar, fees, notarial requirements, court organization, ito po 18.3%. So you can just imagine that since the inception of this, we have already received almost 7,000 inquiries and concerns. Okay. Then monitor court performance. That's the program. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, as early as November 4, 2019, nag-issue ako ng order, memorandum order, reiterating how the previous orders of Chief Justices and the Supreme Court pertaining to rules on session hours, hearing dates, and reglementary periods. Adoption of timelines, gumawa po kami ng because we are now practicing continuous trial in criminal cases. Nag-develop sila ng monitoring system, yung MISO and also the OCA, which they call the CTMS, which is the continuous trial monitoring system. With this system, we can now monitor yung performance ng mga judges kasi they are supposed to transmit the data on a regular basis. So makikita mo yon kung sino ang nadidelay at sino ang hindi sumusunod ng reglementary periods. And then I also required there is also rather a memorandum order that issued banning the use of cell phones and other electronic gadgets not related to the ongoing proceedings or trial. Kasi minsan yung judge nagte-text minsan a judge should always be attentive sa hearing because he or he is not supposed to wait for the stenographic notes. The judge is supposed to take down notes during the hearing. So we want the judges to be active during the trial. And then I also administrative order sometime February 18, 2020, I required all those courts, whether appellate or lower courts, to submit to me copies of TROs, SQAs, and writ of preliminary injunction. And I have a group of lawyers going over these TROs, and there's one now, TRO, which has now been the subject of an investigation. It's now under investigation by the OCA of a TRO and injunction issued by a judge. And then administrative order number 622020, I required also the judges who are fond of inhibiting themselves voluntarily, Pag hindi na kaya yung kaso pag-inhibit So those are the circulars that I issued. Now, insofar as improved procurement and bidding processes, the Plantilla Committee is already reviewing the recommendations of the Office of the OWAS, that means the Office of the Administrative Services, for the creation of a procurement office, because this is mandated by law. By the law says that these government officers should have their own procurement. Hindi na po yung just pick out from several officials and then form a procurement committee. There should not be a separate office for procurement. Yung Supreme Court already finished with the proposal, Sandigan Bayan likewise already. CTA, they have already submitted their proposal. I think CA has already submitted their proposal. And as a matter of procedure, all these proposals should go to a plantilla committee for further study. Then after the study made by the plantilla committee, then it will go to the NBank for approval. Probably before the end of the year, we will have already the single procurement offices in the different courts. And then lastly, the creation of strategy planning and management unit. There's already one created, but because this is a long-term program, the chief of office has already started, harmonizing all these plans among the offices, and in due time she will submit to me the final plan, which will be submitted to the court for approval. So that's all for the presentation. I'm now ready for your questions. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. Our first question will be coming from Mr. Ray Paniligan of Manila Bulletin. Mr. Paniligan?
Good morning po. Magandang umaga po, Chief Justice.
Magandang umaga, Manong Ray.
Opo. And congratulations po sa first year nyo as head of the judiciary. Marami po kayong nagawa. Sana po mas marami pang magagawa nyo until March 2022.
Salamat po.
Isang tanong lang po, hindi ko nahabaan at mukhang ang iba dyan ay gusto ng mananghalian. Ano po? Sa wikang Pilipino po, napansin ko po sa mahigit na 40 taong pagsusulat ko ng Supreme Court para sa Manila Bulletin, simula po nung 7 years ago, nagbago po ang sistema ng pagre-release ng decisions at resolutions ng Supreme Court. Hindi po kaagad nare-release on the day they are promulgated or on the day a decision is reached through a majority vote. Hindi na po ako magsasite ng example, pero ang matindi pong example niya very recently. Ito po, sasabihin ko na rin, tungkol the case of the 22 PDLS na i-final noong April, noong May po, sinulat namin na i-remand sa trial court. Noong July 28, nag-decision po ang Supreme Court na i-remand sa trial court for further proceedings dahil ang Supreme Court hindi trier of facts. Na-announce po natin yan September 10. Subalit yung kopya ng decision na-release po sometime in October at napakarami nang nangyari during that period. Ang tanong ko po, kagalang-galang na Chief Justice, pwede po bang ibalik natin ang dating sistema na ang decision ng Supreme Court, whether full court or division decisions, ma-release on the time they are adopted by the court and promulgated. Salamat po.
Okay. Yung unang tanong muna, yung bakit for your 40 years parang nag-iba po. Ganito po ang yan. I was a member of the committee that drafted the rules. Yung internal rules noong 2010 na po. Before 2010, tama po ang sistema noon. Pag on the date of the release, yun po ang date of the promulgation. So kung nag-embank session kayo ng Tuesday, then that i-release mo agad yun. That will be the date of the promulgation. Kaya lang noon kasi at that time, maraming concerns Pag nag-embank session, let's say Tuesday, at hindi ready yung hindi pa ready may release, so hindi pa nakapromulgate yun kasi hindi pa na-release But in the meantime, naglilik immediately. So, ang ginawa sa I will not tell you anymore. Probably you try to look for the history, why it was changed. I can cite to a case, but confidentially, I tell you later on. Ano yung case na yun na nag-leak? I think you remember that. I remember that case, where it involves the NBank as a whole, but we finally was able to determine who was responsible. Hindi ba alam mo yun So, ginawa ng internal rules ngayon, on the day of the
deliberation, pag in-approve namin yung decision na yan, that is the date of the promulgation. Ang problema lang po, yung sinasabi mo ngayon, hindi naman pa ready yung hindi pa ready yung mga ibang opinions eh. Kasi alam mo naman sa trabaho sa Supreme Court, hindi pa naman tinatawag na dissenting opinion yung opinion ng isa eh. Ang tinatawag doon, reflection muna, reflection. Tapos yung magsusulat ng opinion, hindi naman niya sasabihin na majority opinion, magbubutuan pa kami. Hindi ba? So nangyayari ngayon, for example, yung kay Almonte, decide na namin. So we agreed already that it should go to the courts where the cases are filed. But we cannot also take away the right of a justice to write Right. So nagsulat po sila, ay nakita mo naman kung ilan ang nagsulat. Ang dami po ang nagsulat. And we have to respect that. But your suggestion po will take that into consideration because of this case. You never expected na mangyayari ito. But we have to understand also the court. We are working on during abnormal times Well, I have to tell you frankly, it was very hard to put all the justices in a group and then sign and then submit all Rina-route yan rina-route. And we cannot also, blame the justices. Siyempre, there are days that they have to take their rest kasi nga everybody is avoiding infection, contamination of COVID. Kaya po ang nangyari. But it was not intentional, so to say, Talagang it so happened na nangyari sa case na yan But kung normal times yan, sa tingin ko, it did not happen that way. Abnormal times kasi we cannot. But we will take into serious consideration yung suggestion mo to go back to the old. But that was the reason why we amended. I think you know that case. Confidentially, I can talk to you later on. Tapos na yun, so I do not want anymore to name. But alam mo yun, sa tingin ko, kasi matagal ka na sa Supreme Court. Manong Ray Alam mo yun, di ba? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paniligan. Our next question will be coming from Anjo Alimario of CNN Philippines. Go ahead, Anjo.
Good morning, Chief. Happy anniversary po.
Thank you very much. Nagkaroon ka na ng Parasa na kayo ni Court Ad, mahaba na rin ang buhok. Then mayroon ng Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, my question will be still on the Almonte petition. And of course, we know, sir, that the death of Baby River, the daughter of detained activist Nasino, sparked public outrage, and she's one of the petitioners who sought for their temporarily release, citing the threat of COVID-19. And you've already mentioned the reason for the delay of the court's decision. But can you explain to us, just specifically, Chief, what really happened, why the court took a while to decide on the petition? Because human rights group Kapatid said the Supreme Court neglected the call of prisoners and, quote, sabi nila, hand-washing works for COVID-19 but not for the Supreme Court for this petition. So my question is, how do you respond to those who blame the Supreme Court over what happened to Baby River?
Yeah. Actually, as early as July 28, in-announce na namin yung decision di ba? Now the cases will be referred to the courts where the cases are filed. That was the announcement. I will not blame them because they have their own interpretation. Kung ako lang ang tanongin mo, by that announcement and then refer to the RTC, I think that was already to be a signal that the cases actually the petitions were not given due course because the issues are factual, and then pumunta doon but I will not blame them if they have another interpretation. Yung sa Supreme Court, hindi naman marin nagpabaya doon kay Mrs. Nasino ba yun? Nasino. To tell you frankly, when the cases were pending and they were waiting for the resolution, and then the mother of Nasino was in front of the Supreme Court. Then I was advised about it. I called the court administrator, and I told him what is the concern of the mother. And he immediately went outside of the court because we do not allow visitors during these times. And he said that the daughter is the one and she has a concern. So I immediately directed the court administrator to refer the mother to the RTC, and the RTC acted through Judge Umali. But I think the problem there is that they were not satisfied with the resolution of Judge Umali, and then they caused the inhibition of Judge Umali. Hindi pa namamatay yung bata noon at that time. Then thereafter, upon the advice of my court administrator, he instructed the executive judge, Brilio Macaraig, because of the inhibition, he used the e-raffle. So it was immediately raffled. Then it went to Judge Topacio. Hindi pa nag-acto si Judge Topacio, then there was a motion to inhibit her. I cannot blame them because, my only reading why there was a motion for inhibit because Attorney Topacio is the lawyer in a petition for habeas corpus and writ of amparo pending before the Supreme Court of a girl filed by the mother of a girl of 19-year-old under the care of the anak bayan. So probably that was the reason na ininhibit. Okay. So ininhibit na nila, then the parent, I think, wrote a letter to me. Then right there and then I said that this should be acted upon. I wrote a letter to the executive judge through Justice Midas because I know how it feels to be a parent, di ba? So I instructed the judge to immediately raffle it, e-raffle. It went to Judge Gallegos, and he immediately acted on it. And he granted an original period of 3-day follow. But the girl already died. So, and I received a thank you letter from the lawyer of what I did. But because if you ask that question, ayoko naman lumabas sa public yan because, I do not want na marinig ng iba because I know how it feels to lose a child. But because you have this question, yun talaga nangyari. Hindi naman kami nagpabaya, no? We tried to help her. But alam mo kasi, that's why when I was talking about the reduction of bail, sabi ko, they do not need to tell us what to do. That's why I said, upon the initiative of the court, we reduce the bail bond. Kung mayroon ng power sana ng Supreme Court to go against the constitutional prohibition na hindi pwedeng mag-bail kung capital punishment yan. Kung inilagay lang yan that they can be released if the evidence of guilt is weak and for humanitarian reasons, agad-agad, di na kinakailan ng petition yan. But kasi may limitations. So that's what happened. And you cannot also blame the justices kasi they have naman the right to write their own. Kasi under the 10 periods to follow. And they follow the periods to submit the written opinions. And I cannot deprive them of that. In fact, sa akin lang, 3 pages lang ang resolution ko. But I cannot tell them, wag kang magsulat ng more than 30 pages, 40 pages. Hindi pwede yun kasi, they spend a lot of time, preparing all these opinions naman. I hope they will understand. The court. That's all that I can say. We tried our best, and I hope Mrs. Nasino understands also the court, and the others. But that's what really happened. There was no intention to delay it. Talagang may limitation kasi. Then they were saying, what about in the case of a senator? Yung case yung senator kako, it went through a hearing in Sandigan Bayan. Meron basis based from the evidence. Alam mo naman, if you are a lawyer, you cannot just depend on allegations. We rule on evidence. That's the rule. So, if you say that, he's weak and so on, we cannot just, we are ruled kasi some procedures to follow. But as I said, I understand the plight of Mrs. Nasino, and I extend my condolence to her. I take this opportunity to extend my condolences to her.
Thank you very much, Anjo. Our next question will be coming from Rappler's Lian Buan. Go ahead, Lian.
Hi, Chief. Good morning po. Congrats on celebrating your first year. Chief, I listened to your lecture, and despite all the circulars and the efforts of the judiciary to digitize the processes, as of yesterday, according to data from JTF COVID, there are still 1,728 Filipinos detained for violating quarantine. These are bailable offenses. Chief, I studied the data. This is a curve that has not flattened. What can the Supreme Court do either on its own or either in its capacity as a member of the JSCC to address this? Because surely 1,728 Filipinos still detained in a 7-month lockdown for a bailable offense doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Oh, this is my first time to the judges to do something about it, no? Yeah, and kasi you know, I do not know kasi bailable yan eh. The penalty is not too high. It's bailable. They can use the sa tingin ko baka pwede pang epidemic recognitions on their own eh. So if there are 178,000 how many? How many? 1,000. 1,000. I'm sorry, 1,000 plus. 1,000 plus. I think we have to do something about that. If this are already pending before the. I will take note of that. But may I ask, are you sure that this are already filed before the courts?
Chief, nagkakaroon po ng backlog sa either filing it before inquest prosecutors and filing in court. I think that was the explanation of Interior Secretary Anyo. Parang hindi sila makapag-file either sa prosecutor at pag nasa prosecutor na hindi sila makapag-file sa court. So there is delay but they can't exactly tell me ano yung delay.
Yeah, okay. This is what you will do. I will coordinate with the anyway, meron naman kaming a group yung tinatawag namin na Justice Zone, among the DOJ, the JSC, the ILG, and the Supreme Court. We will try to look to, but kasi the procedure is very simple eh. When one is arrested without a warrant, mag-lecture na lang tayo ng konti. So that if the policemen are listening, or the arresting officer, when a person is arrested without a warrant, that person must be delivered to the judicial authorities within the periods provided for under 125 ng Article 125 eh. Pag light felonies yan, within 12 hours dapat i-file yung case if there is probable cause. Or if it is higher than light felony, then within 24 hours, ipapile yung case agad dyan. If it is grave felony, then they should be filed within 36 hours. In other words, meron silang period eh. Now, kung may delay doon sa inquest, I think we have to remind na lang sila because they are not under our jurisdiction. But that is the procedure eh. So, I'm surprised why there is a delay in the filing. Kasi kung i-file na nila yan at bailable yan, or fine lang yan, ang ginagawa na lang yung nahuhuli, nagbabayad na lang siya ng fine eh. Tapos na eh. I do not know, but we will try to determine the reasons. Pag you ask me that, nasa husgado yan, ngayon, after this one, I will call the judges immediately. So I'm now telling the court administrator is present here that if the cases already filed there, at nandyan pa, at bailable, or can be released on their own recognizance, they have to do something. Ayaw ko yun. For everyday imprisonment, masama yan eh. Di ba?
Chief, your suggestion po na fine na lang imbis na going through the motions of the process, is that gonna be your official suggestion to the JSCC or to other law enforcement agencies? Can we expect that will be the Supreme Court's official suggestion?
Ito ang procedure eh. Inaresto mo yung tao, then it will go to the inquest. Yung inquest, i-determine niya kung mayroong probable cause to file. Pag sinabi ng fiscal, may probable cause to file, then ipapile niya. Pag walang probable cause, ito marahil ang sinasabi mong delay. Pag walang probable cause to file, hindi niya i-dismiss yung case. Magkakandak ng PI. But if the case does not call for a PI, kasi depende sa penalty, dapat dapat i-resolve na niya agad yon. Kasi life felony eh. Kung life felony yan, ha? So we will trace kung saan yan i-handle. Anyway, we'll coordinate with the other offices. Ganun po ang proseso eh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lian. Our next question will be coming from GMA 7's Tina Panganiban Perez. Tina, go ahead.
Good morning po, Chief Justice. During a recent visit to the Manila Bay Dolomite Beach, you said that you're satisfied with the rehabilitation efforts and that the water in the bay is already clean. May we know what your basis for that is when the DNR has repeatedly warned the public that swimming in the bay is still unsafe? And doesn't your statement sir preempt the embank's determination of compliance with the mandamus?
Okay. It's like this, I think you did not understand my answer, I'm sorry, but this is what I mean, When the water is already safe for swimming, dapat 200 ang coliform, 200, When I said the water is clean, I was referring to the wastewater treatment. Kasi yung water, in January of this year, I was invited to observe what they've been doing, what they were doing at that time. And that wastewater treatment was being built. So for the first time, nung bumalik kami dyan, nung sinasabi nandun kami sa Manila Bay, for the first time, nakita ko yung pag-operate ng wastewater treatment. So tinanong ko yung engineer, ano bang coliform yung tubig na lumalabas dyan? Sabi niya, 49. So I said, the water is clean. You know why I said that? Okay. Para alam mo yung history, Pati tubig, pinasukan ko na eh. Ganito yan eh. Yung tubig na pumupunta dyan sa area na yan, yung sa Manila Bay na yan, 3 ang nagtatapon ng dumi yun. Yung estero abad, ito yung if you want to know the location, opposite that estero abad, nandun yung aristocrat restaurant. Okay? Then, we have the drainage in the middle. Meron tayong drainage in the middle, which they call remedios drainage. Yung remedios drainage, yan ang tatapon ng tubig papuntang Manila Bay. Tapos yung huling drainage, yung drainage na nanggagaling sa Padre Paura drainage. So, in other words, yung tatlo, itong 2 drainage, ito yung estero, nagtatapon sa Manila Bay yan. Walang dinadaanan yan. So, pag nagtatapon ng tubig yan, marumi yan. So, what they did was, they connected itong 2 drainage and estero, inilagay ng tubo, then pass through the wastewater. So, in other words, kung ang coliform yan, millions ang coliform dati yan, Ang coliform originally was, kaya, I will check the records, okay? Ang coliform yan in 2017, 249.7 million ang coliform yan. Yung 3 pumapasok doon, 3 coliform. Itong June 2020, 35,000 na lang ang coliform. So what do you say? Are you not satisfied with that? I was more satisfied because of the wastewater. Kung millions ang tumatakbo doon sa drainage doon, dinadaan sa wastewater, naging 49 coliform na yan. So what happens is that, and I was also impressed, yung tubig na linilinis doon, hindi naman lahat tinatapon sa Manila Bay eh. Meron silang cistern doon. Recycle yung tubig. Yun ang pinagkukunan ng mga fire trucks during fire. At yun ang pinagkukunan yung pang water plants along Manila Bay. So you ask me, I impressed. You can just imagine, from 249.7 million, naging 35,000 na lang. And those coming out from the through drainage systems at saka estero, kung 49 ang coliform at ang safe for swimming is 200 coliform, sa tingin ko, everybody will agree with me that they're doing well. Ganun po yun eh. But they are promising that in 1 year's time, sabi nila, they will be able to get 200 coliform. Sabi ni Secretary Simato, sabi sa akin, Chief Justice, doable yan eh. Meron pa kasi nagtatanong dyan, bakit ako nang doon? Bakit ako nang doon, That's part of the continuing mandamus eh. I'm now the designated officer in charge, the member in charge. Ako nag-inherit yung kaso, ako lang naiwan doon sa original group. So that's part of the monitoring system. If they are following yung continuing mandamus, ay nandun ako. And they are supposed to report every quarter, and that was October. But I could not visit the place during the first 2 quarters because of the pandemic. So I took advantage of the good weather. But I thought it was a good weather, but it was raining. But still, I have to go there because that's part of my job. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Our next question will be coming from philstar.com, Ms. Christine Patag. Go ahead, Christine.
Hi, good morning, Chief Justice. This is Christine Patag po from philstar.com. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. My question po is regarding the writ of umpire rules. During the judiciary's budget deliberation at the House of Representatives Court Administrator Midas Marquez said that the SC is open to reviewing the rules on the writ of amparo. Sir, my question is, has the SC started the review, and which specific issues or requirements of the rule will you be looking into? Thank you po.
Yan yun. Yeah, okay. You know, I tell you this, rules of procedure are not permanent eh. Work in progress yan, ang rules of procedure. So, we do not close the door insofar as amendment to the rules. But how we work kasi sa Supreme Court, it's like this. When there are concerns about rules, and then there are suggestions, we usually create a committee, presided usually by a justice at the chairperson committee, and then review. And then there will be some members coming from other offices who have something to do, with that suggested rule. Then we deliberate and so on. We have not yet received any suggestion as to the amendment of the writ of amparo. Diba? Yeah. But even if we do not receive any suggestion from any of the party, if we believe that there is already a need to amend it, then we will amend it. Now, based from our assessments as from our decisions, meron na nagsasuggest na to amend it eh. But because of so many committees now working on different matters, at saka dito na lang tayo muna, sabi namin, we are working, just to tell you frankly, we are working now on we are now institutionalizing our rule on video conferencing eh. Gusto na namin ilagay sa rules yan. We are now also in the process of reviewing the rules on criminal procedure. We are now in the process, actually, where I'm the chairman, also in the video conferencing. And then we also try to review the rules on summary procedure because of changes in the rules. So then we have just modified the rules on mediation and JDR to conform with the rules on civil procedure, which we just completed yesterday before the meeting that I presided sa Philippine Judicial Academy. So marami talagang trabaho. It's good that you asked that question. Alam mo, sa Supreme Court, hindi naman judicial lang ginagawa namin eh. Hindi lang adjudication eh. There are many administrative matters that we have to attend to, like rulemaking and so on. But we will take into consideration yung suggestion. Better pa nga sana if you can write me, or those who are interested to have amended, write me, and then let us see, and then study the matter and probably tackle them in the deliberations of the committee. Yeah. So ganun po yun, Iha. I hope you're satisfied with my answer. Okay lang ba? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Our next question will be coming from Tech Torres Tupas of Inquirer.net. Go ahead, Tech.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, congratulations po. Happy anniversary.
Thank
Sir,
you.
ang question ko po, sir, is about the anti-terror law. Na meron ng IRR and the law is already in effect. What are we expecting na sa Supreme Court? Where are we now sa anti-terror law petitions? And can we still expect an oral argument?
Okay, that's a good question. We are now on decision writing, for 2 weeks. But before we we went on decision writing. That was what we tackled last week, no? Last Tuesday. The problem with the too many petitions, there are so many issues that are raised, no? So what we suggested to the member in charge during this time to come up with the issues. What are the common issues? Ilalap mo na lang yung issues into one, yung common, and then list down also the issues that are not common. Because there are now 37 petitions. We thought all the while aabot lang ng 5 petitions eh. Kaya hinihintay namin na mapapailan agad lahat na so that we can already set for oral argument. In fact, you remember that we announced that the tentative schedule of oral argument is September. Yun ang sinabi namin nun. But after we announced that, marami ang dumating na petitions raising different issues eh. Raising different issues. So we cannot proceed to a oral argument if we have not yet determined what are actually the issues. Kaya ang suggestion namin sa member in charge, and she accepted our suggestion to come up with common issues during this time. When we'll go back to the regular session on November 3, I hope she will already be ready to submit to us the issues to be argued, and then set the preliminary conference. Kasi we have also to consult. Ang isa pang problem namin kasi oral argument, if there are 37 petitions, and everybody would like to argue the respective petitions, where will we place them? And then the OSG will bring all his assistant solicitors general to assist him. Well, we will bring them to an oral argument. Kaya ang sabi namin, ganito na lang, pag na-determine mo yung common issues at sa lahat-lahat na, then conduct a preliminary conference, something like that, and then all those lawyers, petitioners of the lawyers who have common issues, they will just appoint one to argue. Anyway, common naman yung nila yung positions nila eh. That's what we are doing. So sabi ko nga, with 37 petitions, you cannot just imagine, there is even a move to invite amicus curiae. Baka mag-invite ng isa o dalawa amicus curiae. So, but we will resolve the problem in due time. Sa tingin ko, by before the middle of November, we can already agree on the date of the oral argument. We are actually moving fast. We are trying to move fast, but because there are so many petitions kasi, mahirap pa si Iha, it's like this eh. Lahat yan, mag-argue yan. Yung i-argue ng first lawyer, isalit, ganun din i-argue niya eh. So what will happen? The same question din pa, ulit. So, to limit the number of lawyers arguing before the court. So that was the suggestion. And I hope by November 3, when we go back to the session, that will be already addressed by the member in charge. And I hope she's already finished, no? Or she will then be finished at that time. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tej.
Thank you, sir.
Our next question will be coming from Attorney Mike Navalio of ABS-CBN. Go ahead, Attorney Mike.
Chief, good morning. Congrats on the first year. Chief, I have a question about the members of the Supreme Court. This will be in 2 parts. The first part is we've received information from the Court of Appeals that there has been an announcement about the pending retirement, November 3, of an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Can you verify this, or is this the appropriate time to make the announcement?
That is the information from the Court of Appeals, not the information from the Supreme Court, di ba? Well, in due time, you will be informed. Ayokong unahan yung mga members ko eh. Because that's how we work. Ngayon, kung mayroon mga balita dun sa Court of Appeals, baka naman totoo dun, baka naman mali. It's up to you na lang kung tama o mali. But in due time, we will announce it. But ayokong unahan yung mga members ko because that's how we work eh. Okay? Thank you.
Related to that, with respect to another member of the court, some observers have noticed that there seems to be moves to oust Associate Justice Marvic Leonen, whether from the PET or some Associate Justice, particularly the move to file a quo warranto. There's a request for SALN, and there are also reports about supposedly him delaying the PET case and other cases. And some observers have said that this is reminiscent of the Sereno case, where leaks from the court made its way to newspapers, eventually to the impeachment complaint, and to the quo warranto case. Now, is the Supreme Court's unanimous denial of the request for SALN of Associate Justice Marvic Leonen, how do we interpret this? Is this the Supreme Court protecting Leonen or protecting the institution? And how would you reconcile this with the position of the Supreme Court with respect to ousted Chief Justice Sereno when it granted the request of Attorney Gadon to be provided, furnished with SALN of Justice Sereno?
Okay, abogado ka talaga eh. Mabigat yung tanong mo eh. But anyway, it's like this eh. We have a procedure to follow with the release of SALN. And then the procedure is that we cannot release the SALN because there are matters there that are confidential in nature. Kasi tingnan mo naman, hindi lang sa Supreme Court, if we allow the release of SALN in toto, lahat doon, you can just imagine yung mga judges na nag-decide ng cases against somebody else, lahat yan, they will know the addresses of the judges, alam nila yung mga anak nila, sa nag-aaral and so on. That's why we are also not only protecting ourselves, but protecting also those judges in the lower court. So we came up with a guideline that we can release only yung summary. Ngayon, hinihingi nga yung buong SALN. We have not yet, there's no yet rule on that. If we can raise the SALN. The existing rule is, yung until that resolution is amended, that should be the case. Ganon. But if you have some interpretations about that, it's up to you. But we just follow what is the existing rule. Magaling din yung sagot ko.
Thank you, Attorney Mike.
Thank you.
Our last question for now will be coming from the Philippine Daily Inquirer, Marlon Ramos. Go ahead, Marlon.
Good morning po, Chief.
Good morning, good morning.
Congratulations po. Good morning din kay Cortan.
Yeah, thank you.
If you regarding na po sa SALN, kasi recently there have been questions dun sa restrictions on sa SALN. As a former PJ po, yung SALN po ba, kasi may sinasabi it's being weaponized against politicians. Then some are saying na yung SALN laws should be in favor of the public, should be for to promote transparency. What's your view on these contrasting ideas po?
You know, that might come an issue before the court because there are some cases that are filed against public officials based on SALN. Yung determination of wealth, let's say, for example, yung forfeiture, mayroon mga civil forfeitures where they use SALN as a basis of determining the net worth. Now, if I will answer your question now, maiipit ako because these cases might be brought to the Supreme Court. And there are so many cases now pending in the Sandigan Bayan about the use of SALN in determining the network, determining the income, and so on. So I'm sorry, I cannot answer you that. In fact, I also ask questions about that, the position of others. Kaya pwede ba we just avoid na lang muna in the meantime. Okay.
Thank you po, Chief.
Yes. Tama na.
May actually additional questions being asked by our friends, so I think let's allow
Okay
it.
lang, okay lang.
Allow it if.
Okay lang.
Okay. Our first question for the second round will be coming from Nicole Ann Lagrimas of GMA News. Go ahead, Nicole.
Good morning, Chief. Good morning, everyone. Sir, going back to the Almonte petition lang, Justice Leonen suggested a writ of kalayaan to address prison congestion. What do you think about that, and how is that coming along in the court? Thank you, sir.
I explained to you a while ago how the procedure in order to come out with a rule, that is still the opinion of Justice Marvic. If he will come up with suggestions, to the court, and there is a need to organize a committee to study the possibility of coming out with a rule on writ of kalayaan, then certainly we will do that, no? But in the meantime, there is no yet recommendation from Justice Marvic. We have to wait for him. It's only he only indicated in his separate opinion on the case of Almonte. But if there will be one, of course, we have to study it and then organize a committee to study further, the recommendation of Justice Marvick.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Our next question will be coming from the Philippine News Agency, Ben Pulta. Go ahead, Ben.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, sir. Congratulations on your first year in office as Chief Justice.
Thank you very
Sir, dadalawan na ako ng tanong para hindi na ako ikot mamaya. The first is you would like to clarify your point that online video conferencing as part of court procedures in lower courts will be institutionalized.
Yeah.
In connection with that, sir, I heard this anecdote about a witness daw. He was during in bid procedure. He asked to be excused because there was a delivery from Shopee for him. So ang point ko, sir, will the new rules be more strict? How would they apply yung compelling power ng court? I mean, if you hold a witness or a lawyer in contempt, how can you do that if he's online, if he's not actually there in court? May ideas na ba dun, sir?
Someone in contempt of online.
Yes, that's a good question. How could, yeah, because you cannot, I mean, they just cannot see everything naman eh. When the witness is testifying you can still, cite the person committing contemptuous act because it's a video conferencing as if the testimony is being made inside the courtroom. So the same conduct should also be applied to a video conferencing because it is actually a testimony taken before the court. It's a court proceedings. So if there's something wrong, if there's some acts committed by any of the parties, or even the lawyer, may be contemptuous, then the judge can cite him for contempt. Why not? No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ben. Our next question will be coming from ABS-CBN, Attorney Mike Navalio. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Chief. Another question. This one based on recent cases that's been decided by the Supreme Court. You mentioned Madera, where the Supreme Court essentially changed or amended the rule on COA disallowances, essentially saying that those who received it without taking part of the whole process of authorizing the release of cash disbursement are required to return the amount, but you're also giving the officers who actually issued the issuances good faith defense so that they can, in fact, in that case, they were absolved of any liability if they can show good faith. Now, I'd like to relate this to another case, the Villarosa versus People case, where a former mayor was also given good faith belief that he thought he was authorized to issue a quarry permit under the local government code. Is the Supreme Court now inclined to give good faith to public officers rather than holding them more accountable for their actions, Chief?
The good faith, you're a lawyer, right? yung good faith may be a valid defense actually in malum prohibitum. Because in malum prohibitum, they have no other defense except good faith. Because the mere violation of the law makes the offender criminally liable. Unlike in mala ense, as you know, where you have to establish intent. If you do not allow good faith on the part of the public official, you can just imagine what will happen to him now. In the case of Madera, that Madera is not actually a criminal case. No, it might ripen to a criminal case, but if it is a mere notice of disallowance, it is simply administrative in character. So you may return or not. Now, the Madera case actually is a compilation of all the cases before that case was rendered, and there was a need to harmonize all these decisions. We harmonize. Yun lang naman ginawa harmonize lang If you acted in good faith but you're a passive receiver, you have nothing to do, then you have nothing to return, something like that. But if you receive, diba, and there's no basis to receive it, and even if you are in good faith, but the source is illegal, I mean, the law does not allow the recipient, even if you acted in good faith, you have to return. Something like that, no? So yun ang case ng Madera. Now, going back to Villarosa, Villarosa is a criminal case, no? And Villarosa was charged with issuing without a permit. He was acquitted not because of good faith, but because he was charged probably with a wrong crime, because he was charged with violation of 3E, and one of the elements is evident bad faith. No, you know, it's very hard to prove evident bad faith. Evident bad faith is something is fortive design. If you acted in bad faith, the jurisprudence says that you have concealed facts, facts in order to commit something. That is fortive design. It's not merely bad faith. You concealed something in order to commit the crime. That is fortive design. In the case of Villarosa, he was of the honest impression that he has the authority to and he did not hide something because he went through the process. He went to the council for him to issue the permit, and he was given the permit. Hindi niya tinago eh. It should have been probably fortive design is he did not go to the process of asking the panlalawigan to be given the authority to issue the permit. Sila lang yang ganyan, tapos tinago niya, and then issue the permit. Ayan, baka pwede pa yon. So that's what happened, no? Which is different from the Madera case because that is civil in nature.
Chief, if I could just follow up on that, I'm curious about the procedure in the Villarosa case because I understand that that case was overturned, the acquittal was overturned after a second MR. One of the justices was saying the case was already closed, and then you had to reopen the case. And there's this new rule now that if the Supreme Court is going to look at the case that's been decided by the Sandigan Bayan in its first or original jurisdiction, it cannot do so on a mere resolution, but it has to be a full-blown decision. But essentially, how do you address concerns, Chief, that in this particular case, it was dismissed twice, summarily dismissed by the Supreme Court through a resolution, but it's been reopened. You now have a new rule that's been crafted to accommodate that. And there are also concerns. If I may just relate this, in the case of the petitioners for the release of political prisoners, the Supreme Court was a bit reluctant to apply the same precedent accorded to former Senator Enrile on humanitarian grounds, saying that there needs to be a bail hearing. So in that case, the application of the law was a bit stiff, as opposed to here in the Villarosa case. How would you explain that?
That's a good question. It's not actually acting on the second motion for reconsideration, but more on substantial justice. This is what happened. Before we go into that, under the rules of the Sandigan Bayan, before, when an accused is convicted in the Sandigan Bayan, your remedy is Rule 45. I think you understand what's Rule 45. You come to the Supreme Court, then you can only invoke the question of law. Okay. And remember that the jurisdiction of Sandigan involves salary grades of 27 up. So these are high government officials. Okay. So what do we do? What did we do with Villarosa? Because it is a Rule 45, and therefore we cannot review the facts. And on the question of law, we dismiss his petition through a minute resolution. So in the second motion for reconsideration, the issue was raised. Why is it that my case was dismissed through a minute resolution, and why should you not look at the facts? Because if you look at the facts, then I'm innocent of the charges against him. That's what he raised as the issue. Now, you look at a public official, a low-ranking official charged with malversation. The jurisdiction belongs to the regional trial court, right? Okay. And the remedy of a low-key public official when he's convicted is the RTC is ordinary appeal. And therefore, if it is an ordinary appeal, then you can review the facts. Okay? Now compare him now with Villarosa. There is no court that reviews the facts because the remedy is Rule 45. Not only that, if the accused is convicted in the Court of Appeals, an ordinary official, he has still a remedy, which is to go up to the Supreme Court under Rule 45 and then raise the issue of question of law. Now, he is a grade 27. Here comes now the petition. Why is it that a higher official you just dismiss my case without reviewing the facts. Now, if you were in the shoes of the justice and that argument is raised, what should you do? So we entertained and then allowed the review of the facts. And that was the reason why in November of 2018, we amended the internal rules of the Sandigan Bayan. Because where will that convict actions go? You cannot review the facts. You know what we did? We now changed the remedy from Rule 45 to ordinary appeal. So if it's not ordinary appeal, so we now answer the query in the case of Villa Rosa. So there is no conflict between the Villa Rosa and Madera. It was actually answering the call of substantial justice. Kasi tignan mo, supposing the president was not the former president who was convicted, di ba? Mag-file siya ng Rule 45 at that time. If there is nobody will try to review the case and then say, no, facts cannot be reviewed under Rule 45. What can only be reviewed? Question of law. What will happen? Just a minute resolution, no substantial, no reversible error. The petition is hereby dismissed. So we cured that. And it was that case of Villa Rosa that prompted the court to amend the internal rules of the Sandigan Bayan. And incidentally, I was the one who chaired the committee that drafted the rules of the internal rules of the Sandigan Bayan. And I was the one also who wrote that decision in Villa Rosa. Di mo lang masabi kasi. That's it. Thank you. Abogado ka talaga. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Chief, we have 4 more questions in this order. After this, I think we have to wrap up already.
Yeah.
So we have Lian, Anjo, Tina, and then the last question will be coming from Joel. So Tiff, can you please call them in that order? Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Brian. So our next question will be coming from Rappler's Lian Buan. Go ahead, Lian.
Chief, I have 2 unrelated questions, if I may please beg the indulgence of the court. The first one is, this is your ponensya, Chief. When you promulgated People versus Lim, it was PIDEA who wrote to OCA to complain that there were an alarming number of acquittals, and you had the opportunity to clarify that in your JBC interview. You said that hindi dapat ina-acquit, kundi dinidismiss lang yung cases without prejudice to refiling so that law enforcement can justify their non-compliance. Now, Chief, in Dumaguete, PIDEA agents were found to have staged a buy-bust. In Bulacan, cops were found to have picked up bystanders and staged them in separate nanlaban cases where they were gunned down and killed. So imagine, in Dumaguete, CCTV yung nag-save sa kanila. In Bulacan, it was a photo dun sa nung the suspects were being held before they were staged for nanlaban. Imagine if there were no CCTV. Imagine if there was no photo. So moving on, Chief, how can the courts apply People versus Lim in such a way that fake raids, fake arrests, and fake nanlabans are avoided? That's my first question, Chief. My second pa.
Mabigat yung tanong mo, I'm not familiar with what happened to that case in Dumaguete and Bulacan, but based from the news items in Dumaguete, meron utang CCTV where it shows that they were not actually arrested. That's what I understand from the news. Yung Rumilim and Rumilim, actually it works 2 ways. And sinabi ko noon, because there should have, as you have said correctly, maraming na-acquit noon because of the provisions in Section 21. And in order to prevent the compliance, to prevent so many acquittals, kung dapat naman kung nangyari yan, so we came out with Rumilim as a guide, that when they file the cases, yung requirements of Section 21 should already be indicated in the affidavit of arrest. Kasi ang nangyayari noon, pag nagpunta sa husgado yung kaso, and it's not stated in their affidavit arrest, wala na nagtatanong yung compliance. Although the law says, for justifiable reasons, you can be excused from non-compliance of the witnesses. Walang gumagawa ng ganun Kaya pagdating namin dito, siyempre, because it's substantive law, we have to acquit. So ginawa namin yung Rumilim to avoid, sabi namin, ilagay mo lang sa affidavit of arrest so that when the fiscal asks questions and the questions are based on the affidavit of arrest, nandun na, hindi niya makakalimutan. Hindi ba? So ganon. So it does not call for acquit. Okay. It works two ways because number one, yung prosecution, meron mo siyang properly built up case. Yung accused din magbe-benefit eh. Because from the very beginning, he can also formulate as early as the filing, alam na niya kung anong depensa niya eh. Sa tingin ko, gayon ang nangyari marahil, if I'm correct sa Dumaguete, marahil inilagay doon sa statement na ganito ang ginawa nila, the accused had sufficient time to verify ba nakakuha ng CCTV to counteract what is stated in the affidavit. So probably that is yun ang ginawa ng akusado. So that's why I'm saying it works both ways. Ba kung hindi nagsasabi ng totoo yung then the accused is given sufficient time to come out with this defense as what they did probably itong Dumaguete. Kung tama yung nababasa ko sa sa dyaryo, because they were acquitted because the CCTV show otherwise eh. Ibig sabihin, they were pick up daw and then trump up charges. So baka ganun ang ginawa ng akusado. When they filed the cases, they had the sufficient time to look for evidence and then contradict what they have what they have stated in the affidavit of arrest. Yun marahil ang advantage of the limb insofar as accused are concerned. Tama ba yun?
Second
Yeah.
second question po. Ano naman na to, Chief, denied na yung MR nito, so I guess you can talk about it. In the Mandamus for Duterte Health petition, Justice Caguiwan, his dissent, said the majority opinion was overly deferential to the sitting president, and this deference to the executive is a recurring theme in many dissents in all the decisions that have so far favored the Duterte administration. So is the Supreme Court overly deferential to this administration, and how would you convince the people otherwise?
Anyway, it will depend on the way the readers will interpret the decisions. That is the opinion of Justice Ben Caguio. I'm not saying that they will not read the other opinions of the other justices. That is other opinion, though. It will depend on the reader. Kasi sa amin naman you can write whatever you want to write. If you believe that you are correct and then write it, you have the privilege of writing it. Ganun naman kami. We do not. Then you are asking me an opinion baka magagalit sa akin si Justice Ben if I say something contrary to his opinion. So let it be that way. It will now depend on the reader of the decision and the way he interprets the decision. Because sa amin naman kasi we roll based on majority. So we are a collegial body, so we respect each other's opinion, but the one that will prevail is the majority opinion. Okay.
Thank you very much, Lian.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, our next question will be coming from Anja Alumaria of CNN Philippines. Go ahead, Anja.
Hi, Chief. Yeah, sir. Sir, I just want to ask about, of course, one of the most high-profile cases in an essay, the pet case, sir. So I just want to know, will the tribunal be able to finish the election protest before the 2020 elections or before the filing of the certificate of candidacy, or it will become another case that will become moot in academic should one or both of them are run in 2022?
Okay, the Supreme Court would like that all election cases should be terminated before the end of the term. That is the policy of the court, and everybody is aware of that. It would be still better, sabi ko sa kanila, that cases should be decided before the filing of certificates of candidacy, which is October of 2021. But I'm not when I was the chairperson of the HRET, yung House of Representative Electoral Tribunal, during the 17th Congress, I headed that office, all the cases were resolved before I left in June of 2019, because that was my policy in the HRET that all cases at least should be decided before the end of the term, before the end of Congress, and that was June. So probably the filing of certificates of candidacy was October 2019. So that's it. So I told my members that we have to resolve all those cases before the end of their term, or better still, before the filing of certificates of candidacy, which is October, I think, is the October 2021. I think that's the filing of certificates of candidacy. I'm not sure of the date, but that's what I know. I remember is October 2021 for the elections in 2022. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anjo. Our second to last question will be coming from GMA7, Ms. Tina Pangilinan Perez. Go ahead, Tina.
The Manila Times came out with an article today saying that, quoting several judges and justices, na the Supreme Court daw is treating Justice Leonen with kids' gloves and is letting him get away with sleeping on the job. This after the court punished CA Justice for not resolving her cases immediately. How do you respond to that po, sir?
Well, no, you know, mas mabigat yung tanong mo kasi different justices have different way of resolving their case. Si Justice Marvick has a own style, medyo mahabang magsulat. So ganun, we have to respect yung yung manner of resolving his cases. That's why when you ask me about the opinions of those that you read from the papers, buti na lang din ako mag-comment ng ganyan. Only that there's his own style of resolving cases. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Tina. And our last question will be coming from Joel San Juan of Business Mirror. Joel?
Good morning, Chief Justice, and congrats po. My question is somehow related to the ongoing effort to rehabilitate Manila Bay. It's been a year since the SC ordered Manila Water and Maynilad to pay almost 2 billion for failing to provide wastewater treatment facilities and connect sewage lines in all establishments. I know there's a pending MR on this, but can we expect a final resolution of this case very soon? Or will the SC prioritize this case since its resolution, I think, is vital to the effective implementation of the Philippine Clean Water Act and the ongoing rehabilitation of Manila Bay?
Yeah.
Thank you, CJ.
Yeah, that's a good question, okay, I'll check the records, and then I will advise the member in charge to fast track the resolution of that. Unfortunately, I have to inhibit in that case. No, I did not participate in that case because one of the cases was decided by my wife in the Court of Appeals, where she imposed a fine on one of the parties. But as a Chief Justice, because that is your concern, I will confer with the member in charge to fast track the resolution of the motion for reconsideration. Now, aside from that, I want to add something. Yeah, you are correct. The Manila should actually construct now the sewerage system, because that will really clean the water that comes from the household, because unfortunately, within the 5-year period that they were supposed to construct a sewerage system, the deadline, I remember, was not 1999 because their franchises were given to them in 1994, and they have a 5-year to construct a wastewater treatment or sewerage system. Wala silang ginawa, kaya you know how much the court imposed fine? That's 200,000 per day until they comply. But I heard from Secretary Shimato that they are already constructing wastewater treatments both in the south and in the north side of the metropolis. I have not seen the places yet, but one of these days, when we will conduct our inspection in accordance with the continuandamos that we issued, I think we will try to visit those two places if indeed they've already constructed, or how much have they done with the construction of this wastewater treatment. That will really clean the waters in Manila Bay, definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
So there's no more question. Again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Justice Meet, specifically from Jukra and Juror, You had made this program of ours a very enlightening and a successful one. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again.
Salamat din sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much for your time. More than 2 hours. I hope that we'll have another press briefing, no, in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice. Maraming salamat rin po, Court Administrator Midas Marquez, Attorney Aricheta. And also we'd like to thank our friends from the JBC who help us out here, led by Attorney Leia Lac. Happy anniversary, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may now press the B button. Thank you.
Walang group photo, sir. Walang group photo.